Do you want to understand the meaning of life? Do you want to really live? Yes/no. Looking at the bad advertisement on the computer screen, Cheng Ying decisively chose the cross in the upper right corner. No. Next. Then he traversed so casually, looking at his stubby front paws. Cheng Ying wailed, "What a traversal has become for me." He was in a snowy field. He thought that he would be wailing and would not have any response. Unexpectedly, someone would actually respond to him. God dream. Don't run. I must eat you today. Cheng Ying turned her head subconsciously, and saw an emerald green scorpion leaping forward with its teeth and claws, with a head and a meter, combined with his current body that looked like a caterpillar. It instantly scared his soul to fly. What can he do? Of course it's gone. It would be silly not to run. Cheng Ying moved 6 short legs awkwardly, and Cheng Ying started to gallop in a very uncoordinated posture. After all, it was the first time that she appeared in the body of a big insect. Why chase me? Cheng Ying shouted in grief. You want Tai Chi syrup? I will give it to you. What's the thing? The emerald scorpion chasing behind Cheng Ying looked confused. What is the syrup rush? Don't talk nonsense, Tian Meng, you will never escape today. I will be able to survive 400,000 years after eating you. The limit is over. What is it? Cheng Ying also looked dumbfounded. 400,000 years? Why don't you say you are fine? I will talk later, this special thing is already fine. Cheng Ying is also an old bookworm who has read novels and learned 100 megabytes of wealth, so he quickly accepted the setting of travel and fantasy, and his mind quickly turned. I am a bit familiar with the plot now. Cheng Ying quickly retrieved the novels he had read. By the way, Tian Meng Ice Silkworm. This is the grandfather of Douluo Luo. I have become such a hard-working man. Cheng Ying desperately ran away, while thinking frantically about the strategy to survive. Knowing the plot made him understand that if the little scorpion behind him catches him, he will definitely die, and he will be cruelly eaten. Don't look at the original work. Tianmeng Ice Silkworm has been cultivated for millions of years, and that scorpion, that is, Bingbai Emperor Scorpion, is only 390,000 years old, but if it fights, Tianmeng will definitely be rubbed on the ground. In the original book, Tianmeng ran blindly and fell into the sea to escape, but where is the sea? And the hard-working man escaped from the tiger's den and entered the wolf's den, and was soon caught by the guys in the Stardo Great Forest. In the end, I had no choice but to become Huoguo's plugin. I had a hard time going through it once. I can't force it so hard. The heavenly dream ice silkworm, which Cheng Ying passed through, has a cultivation base of nearly 1,000,000 years. It runs very fast. He will not be caught up by the Ice Emperor for a while, but he does not want to find a way. Sooner or later. Thing. Plot, what plot can keep me alive? The Ice Emperor cannot survive the next catastrophe, so I must eat me, so I have to find a way to change her mind, but what else is there in Douluo? Can divert her attention? By the way. Thinking of this, Tianmeng Cheng Ying patted his short front paws, turned his head and shouted at the Ice Emperor who was chasing him, "Can you let me ask, how sure I am after you have eaten? I have a heavenly dream, even if I die, I must die to understand." The tail hook behind the Ice Emperor shook, considering that it was precious food that she was chasing and killing, she decided to answer its question for the time being, "Have you been ready to be eaten?" Humph! Don't think you can convince me to eat. If you lose you, the chances of getting over the limit must be much greater than if you didn't eat it. That's not 100%. Cheng Ying was overjoyed. While running away, she turned her head and flickered, "Ice Emperor, are you not curious at all, why can I live so long?" He also tried to show a tangled expression, although he didn't know whether the tangled face of Silkworm could be seen. Humph, you just had good luck. You fell into the 10,000 years profound ice marrow and ate a whole cave of 10,000 years profound ice marrow. You have only lived for so long. Otherwise, how could you be a low-level soul beast? Passing the limit again and again. Bingdi snorted coldly. Speaking of the Ice Emperor on the tail hook, a blast of freezing rays condensed, hitting Cheng Ying's side, freezing out a block of ice larger than him, scared him to speed up a few minutes. Do you think I really just found it because of a coincidence, Wanzai Xianbing? Cheng Ying ran so hard that she couldn't speak. It's not a coincidence, is it still something? The Bingdi just kept his head down and accelerated, and there was no point in stopping and talking. In the extreme north, with so many ice silkworms, I was the only one who fell on the mystic ice marrow of 10,000 years. Do you think this is just a coincidence? You can't find something that so many powerful people can't find. The soul beast picked it up. Cheng Ying's words do sound reasonable. The Ice Emperor who has never studied statistics would only think that so many soul beasts can't find the 10,000 years profound ice marrow, and it is indeed impossible to be found by an ice silkworm. Then why are you talking about it? I can make you die a little bit easier. Bingdi said coldly, even if the big bug had some secret, after she squeezed it dry, it was just food. Because I can detect the treasures of heaven, material, and earth, I can find them on the entire continent. Cheng Ying is also out of touch, and can only be ridiculous, at least in this way, to avoid the fate of being eaten directly. Furthermore, even if it becomes a worm-shaped treasure hunter, it is better than being eaten. Hey? Do you think I'm a child less than 10,000 years old? Such a ridiculous lie wants to deceive me. The Bingdi felt that he was being teased, so you read www.yuyuganshu.com with a flash of freezing light on his backhand. Frightened Cheng Ying accelerated a little more. I know that there is another place on the mainland, there is 1,000 years of profound ice marrow, only a lot more than the one I ate. I also know many other good places, female heroes, please. If you don't believe me, I can take you there. Cheng Ying, as an ordinary person who has just passed through the computer, can perform these operations in the process of being chased and killed. It is already quite the limit. Hey! You said you were going to hunt for treasures. Who knows if you have set up some traps and want to kill me? Although the Ice Emperor said that, he did not continue to release the freezing rays. Thank you, I have a dream of living underground for 900,000 years. Either eat or sleep. How can I deal with you? I can take you to find a blessed land to prove that what I said is true. It's not too late to talk about Wanzai's profound ice marrow. Well, you stop and don't run. I promise not to kill you. The Ice Emperor got it coldly. Their soul beasts have a lifespan of tens of thousands of years. She doesn't mind delaying time with this big bug. Cheng Ying was quite hesitant to the Ice Emperor's request. It really took courage to make the decision to stop, but he forced himself to stop even though it was a death to escape. Turned to face the Ice Emperor who was catching up quickly, his heart beating fast. Seeing the Ice Emperor has come to him, he couldn't help but close his eyes nervously. After a while, the imaginary sensation of the body being pierced did not come, replaced by the sensation of something cold hitting the head. Hey! Open your eyes! You are too courageous. Are you so afraid of death? To be continued. Ask for collection, ask for recommendation ticket. Bingdi's voice was a little different from when he was far away. When he got closer, the voice not only didn't appear cold, but it was a little bit more girlish. It's normal to be afraid. You are going to eat me. You are not the one being eaten, how do you know how terrible it is? Cheng Ying said shamelessly. Hurry up, take me to find the treasure. Bingdi's voice seemed a little impatient. But where I know, in the south, in the human world, how do we go like this? Cheng Ying shook his stubby front paws. Although this pose was cute, it obviously couldn't make it to the human world. Cut! Say it early. The 1-meter-long scorpion in front of him flashed with emerald green light, as if it had melted, and turned into a small flat loli. The girl incarnation of the Ice Emperor, less than 1.6 meters tall, with double ponytails in gradient colors from blue to green, pounded behind her head, in an emerald green Lolita-style cute short skirt, and her body that hasn't grown out yet. No matter how you look at the package, it is a type of smiling in 3 years in prison and walking along the road to the death penalty. Hey? So do you like this look? Cheng Ying didn't stop her mouth for a while, and she subconsciously vomited. Take care of you. Give me a human appearance. The Lolita version of the Ice Emperor clearly knew that she had a lot of transformation slots. A violent shudder smashed Cheng Ying's head and smashed his big head. Entering the ice, obviously this transformation did not affect her combat effectiveness. But, I won't. Cheng Ying said weakly. He had just crossed, and he hadn't even inherited the memory of Heavenly Dream, let alone becoming a human being. He didn't even know how to use his spirit power. Are you an idiot? Bingdi said with one hand on his hips, puffed up, and said with one hand on Cheng Ying's forehead. He suddenly had a basic method of using spirit power in his mind, and how to use huge soul power to transform after 100,000 years. For him, this is not difficult. If you have to make a proper analogy, it is to pinch your face. This kind of custom appearance selection method, of course, is to pinch as handsome as you are. In a blink of an eye, the big bug he became a handsome boy of 1.8 meters tall, wearing a blue windbreaker, and his muscles were beautiful but not exaggerated. Unfortunately, this did not make the Bingdi look at him more. Obviously, the aesthetics of the maternal maids is different from that of humans. Okay, go hurry up when the changes are over. Bingdi said impatiently. But which side is south? Cheng Ying was stunned, and he didn't have a compass. Forget stupid, I think you are lying to me to see if I don't eat you. Said her slender hands that were soft and boneless. She grabbed Cheng Ying's nape and turned towards the human beings in the south. The country flew away at an extremely fast speed. Ah! How did things develop into this way? In the Tiandu Empire, on the streets of Tiandu City, a handsome young man in a blue trench coat is holding a cute little Loli's hand while walking down the antique street. Little Loli is still holding one in her hand. Candied haws, one bite at a time. These two people are the Ice Emperor and Cheng Ying. Such a harmonious scene is not at all like the relationship between the hunter and the prey. Cheng Ying can only attribute all this to the spirit beast's concept of time. Probably the Ice Emperor regards this as a form of entertainment. When the two first came to the human world, Cheng Ying's performance was not much better than that of the Ice Emperor. In this world without mobile phones and electronic maps, he was a road idiot. In the end, the Ice Emperor took him from Douluo Empire, came to Tiandu Empire. If you can see this fan, I shouldn't need to introduce these two empires. Cheng Ying brought the Ice Emperor to the Heaven Do Empire in order to find the Eyes of Ice and Fire. There are many precious heavenly materials and earth treasures, which are enough to prove the nonsense that Cheng Ying had said before, but the Heavenly Do Empire is also very large, occupying half of the mainland, and it is not so easy to find the Eyes of the Ice and Fire. Fortunately, Cheng Ying remembers that the secret realm is located in the Sunset Forest. As a famous soul beast colony, it can still be found on the map. Xiaobing, let's go. You won't be able to catch up with the caravan in the Sunset Forest if you don't set off. Cheng Ying pulled the Ice Emperor who wandered around in the commercial street, causing the girl to grumble with dissatisfaction. Who told you to call me that without authorization? I must be called Lord Bingdi. Okay Xiaobing, it's okay Xiaobing, what else can you tell Xiaobing? After so long, Cheng Ying discovered that Bingdi's mind was actually immature, perhaps because he had lived for more than 300,000 years. Because of the loneliness, she was not as difficult to get along with as she imagined, so that under the premise that her life was safe, Cheng Ying couldn't help but start to feel skinny. Hey! If you dare to call me that, I will eat you. Bingdi said with a super fierce expression, and why are you following the slow caravan? How fast we flew! Have you forgotten how you flew into the sea? Without a reference, we can't fly in a straight line at all. I haven't flew in too long. The Bingdi's small face flushed red. I have said that I can't mention that again. As he said, the Bingdi punched Cheng Ying's chest with embarrassment. He hit your chest with this small fist. He immediately flew out more than 10 meters, stuck in a wall, and climbed out for a long time, so he is still facing the danger of death at all times. Fortunately, there are nearly 1,000,000 years of cultivation. Yu reading www.yuuganshu.com has a thick batch of blood bars. Even if he fights hard, he won't be stunned by the Ice Emperor. In this way, the two came to the caravan's meeting point in the horrified eyes of passers-by. Because of the payment, the two were arranged in a carriage for transporting goods and did not need to follow the caravan. The director of the caravan is a fat middle-aged man who is very polite to the two of them, seeming to treat them as a rich kid who sneaked out. In the bump, the caravan set off soon, and there was no video to watch, and no mobile phone to play. Cheng Ying soon fell asleep on the cargo board. The little Lolita next to sighed, really an idiot with no defensive heart. I really don't know how I lived for 900,000 years, and I didn't even know it as food. If you eat this kind of fool, you will definitely become a fool. So, let's just assume that you are a grain reserve in 10,000 years. Talking to himself in a low voice, Bingdi's petite body lightly leaned on Cheng Ying's body, but did not fall asleep, slightly opened his eyes and watched. It seemed to be saying that even if this guy is a food reserve, he can only it's the same as my food reserve. Moving forward in an orderly manner, the carriage without tires was very bumpy, making Bingdi couldn't help being a little sleepy. Just when she was about to wake Cheng Ying to take a nap, there was a sudden commotion outside. The fat face of the caravan supervisor squeezed into Bingdi's field of vision, and while wiping the sweat off his face with the oil-stained towel, he said nervously, "Two employers, please come down, because something is impossible. The resistance factor, the caravan can only send you two here." "What are you talking about?" I said, "Let the people in the car roll off. When the King of Heaven meets our Qinglang village, I have to get off the car too." To be continued. Ask for collection, ask for recommendation ticket. Hearing the arrogant roar outside, Bingdi's eyes lit up, and he pinched Cheng Ying's face fiercely. "Slacker, get up, business is coming. Don't make noise. I just dreamed that Saber touched my room in the middle of the night, and waited for something to happen before wake me up." Cheng Ying was so confused as to talk in sleep, and then clanged and was thrown from the car. Just about to rub his head and get up, Bingdi's petite figure crossed over him and fell in front of him. From his perspective, the wonderful picture he saw made him silently shout in his heart, "Photographer, add chicken legs tonight." Bingdi didn't realize it, flicked his double ponytails, with one hand on his hips, pointing at the person who was clamoring just now, and in a tender voice, he said the lines Cheng Ying taught her, "You are seeking your own death." Puff ha 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 ha. Seeing a little lowly uttering this line seriously, the Qinglang's eye bandit who was clamoring just now suddenly laughed, and his comrades couldn't help but burst into laughter. One of the people who was obviously the little boss approached her and released a stick. The stick was wrapped around one white and one yellow, and two spirit rings. "Little sister, do you know what this is?" "This is a spirit ring. This is what I got when I hunted down those cruel spirit beasts myself." "Do you know what the Doring Spirit Master means?" "I am alone. All these wastes can be knocked down, and there are 5 of us like me." The little boss didn't realize it at all. He said something quite deadly. Cheng Ying, who had just gotten up from the ground, had silently put a deadly label on this man's face. "Are you finished?" Little Lolita is still with one hand on her hips, but her other hand is already pointed at the tip of the little boss's nose. "You can go to death after you say it." The next moment, there was silence. After a while, everyone burst into laughter and laughed at little Laurie's self-defeatingness. However, as soon as they laughed twice, they were shocked to see that the body of the little boss, like a sculpture, stood upright. On the ground, with a click, it fell to pieces. The laughter stopped abruptly. Everyone looked at the Ice Emperor in amazement. The next moment the bandits in King Glangzai turned around and ran away. No matter it was the village owner or the owner, no one dared to look back. It's just that they wanted to run again at this time. It was too late. No one could see what the Ice Emperor had done. They saw all the bandits' movements freeze, and then the statues shattered to the ground. What are you still doing? Go and touch the corpse! Bingdi yelled, letting Cheng Ying, who was lying on the ground pretending to be dead, climb up helplessly, and searched for the bandits' possessions one by one. Needless to think, the reason why the two are rich to eat and drink in human cities and hire caravans is because of the current situation. The cultivation bases of the two are too high, and those spirit masters with 1 or 2 rings can't see it. They are great, so they will always be a little blind and planted here. Cheng Ying didn't have much psychological burden. Although he was an ordinary person before crossing, he would be shocked when he saw the corpse, but the Ice Emperor had no blood at all in killing. After experiencing twice, he all regarded it as picking frozen meat. When the two of them were touching the corpses, all the caravan watched silently, and none of them dared to move. The caravan's supervisor shivered when they were about to return to the carriage that carried the goods. Come over and say, thank you too for your life-saving graces. How can 2 powerful soul masters condescend to sit in the wagon and come with me? There is a separate car in front. He said that he was still moving in front of the much more luxurious carriage. Give a hint. The Ice Emperor glanced at Cheng Ying. Because there were so many jokes in the human world, the Ice Emperor was used to let Cheng Ying make a decision. Then it's better to be respectful. Cheng Ying has long been fed up with the painful truck, and he didn't feel so uncomfortable riding on a tractor in his previous life. The caravan manager respectfully put the two on the carriage, and soon opened the door curtain, and handed in 2 bags of gold soul coins. You two, don't be polite, it's just a little bit from the guys, if you don't have to. Take it, I'm afraid I'm already violent in the corpse wilderness, I just hope that the 2 of you can take care of 1 or 2 during the next journey. This time, the Bingdi didn't ask Cheng Ying's opinion, so he snatched the purse without a second word, and counted the gold soul coins in it like a fan. The supervisor saw the terrible little girl and took the money. Bag did not say anything, and stood at the door awkwardly for a while, not knowing what to do. Okay, don't worry, there will be any danger in the future, like when we ask for help, we will not die. After receiving the promise from Cheng Ying, the supervisor quit the carriage with a smile. Hey! Big Bug, how about we send these caravans to each other in the future? 100 gold soul coins. We have robbed so many thieves, and there are more than 200 gold soul coins. The money bag looks like a little money fan. What do you think of you? Cheng Ying sighed helplessly. He knew that the Ice Emperor was such a character. Where did he need to compile so many reasons before? Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com, but he thought that the Ice Emperor came to the human world. When he became like this, he was a little relieved again. If the Ice Emperor couldn't be fooled into the human world, then she would definitely eat it in the spirit beast's nature. Thinking wildly in his mind, Cheng Ying took out a gold coin from the purse with the murderous eyes of the Ice Emperor, and said, "This is the cost of a person who saves money and spends a month." After finishing speaking, he dropped the gold coins into the bag, pointed to the bag and said, "These are the costs of hiring a touring spirit master." When he said this, he reached out and nodded the Ice Emperor's forehead. "Then you think you can squeeze a titled Douluo powerhouse with one hand, how much should it be worth?" Hearing this, the Ice Emperor shook his purse, looked at himself, and suddenly stood up. "Hey? What are you going to do?" Cheng Ying saw this, her forehead was sweating, and she hurriedly took her little hand. "Of course I went to the supervisor of the caravan. He still owes me 1 million soul gold coins. I have to ask him to come back. The Ice Emperor said confidently. Wait a moment, we are actually just taking a ride. If you have money, you have already made a lot of money. I just tell you not to work as a mercenary job. Because no one can afford you. Cheng Ying wiped the cold sweat from her forehead. The Bingdi doesn't have any human notions of good and evil. If you let her out and quarrel with others, the entire caravan will have to die. Finally, the promise of taking her to make money in the future calmed the Ice Emperor, and this allowed the caravan to avoid the fate of being overwhelmed. Amidst the quarrel between the two, the convoy finally came to the Sunset Forest. Cheng Ying decisively declined the caravan's retention, and took the Ice Emperor, who was about to be overwhelmed with the impulse to kill and surrender. Go everywhere. To be continued. Ask for collection, ask for recommendation ticket. Are you really sure that there is the treasure of heaven and earth you said here? If you lie, I will eat you on the spot. Bingdi put on a super fierce expression to Cheng Ying. Probably so. Cheng Ying is also a bit unsure. First, he doesn't know what age it is now. In theory, it should be before the start of the Douluo 1 plot, but he just doesn't know how much it has advanced. The concept of time, I am afraid that 1,000 years is only not long ago. If it is really 1,000 years ahead, it is unknown whether the herbal medicine of the eyes of the ice and fire will have a long history. Second, he didn't know the exact location of the eyes of the ice and fire. Although the Sunset Forest was a relatively small soul beast colony, it was also close to a prefecture-level city in size. It would take a lot of effort to find it. Don't say probable. If not, I will definitely eat you. Bingdi bit his arm, leaving a neat row of teeth marks. This scene looks cute, but only Cheng Ying himself knowing that at that instant, he was evacuated of 1/10,000th of his original soul power. Don't eat me, I'm really useful. I can be sure that the place is in this Sunset Forest, but I don't know how specific it is. I'm so stupid. Tell me what the secret realm is like, I'll help you find it. Bingdi said with anger. The secret realm looks like there are a lot of precious herbs. There are poisonous miasma outside. The core is 2 kinds of spring water, 1 ice and 1 fire. The ice and fire are extremely extreme, which can be called the 2 eyes of ice and fire. Listening to Cheng Ying's description, Bingdi clicked on his little head, then closed his eyes slightly, the mental fluctuations spread out, and began to scan the surrounding environment. In theory, Cheng Ying could do it, even better than Bingdi's scan. Farther. But he doesn't have the memory of being a soul beast, and he doesn't know any skills. With his current level of mental power, he can detect a few kilometers around him at most, which is inferior to the perception that the Ice Emperor can easily enter 100 miles. Bailey is actually a large area, and a small part of the Sunset Forest is shrouded in her. Soon Bingdi opened his eyes. I found the poison barrier, but I can't detect it inside. Let's go. It should be there. Speaking of the Ice Emperor pulling up Cheng Ying, he bounced around and ran in that direction. Although the Sunset Forest is a place where soul beasts live, there are not many soul beasts in 100,000 years. Facing the Ice Emperor who has been nearly 400,000 years old, they are all scared. Shaking tremblingly, he didn't dare to come out to make trouble. Cheng Ying, the moving Tang Seng meat, also a fake tiger, came to the poison barrier without any hindrance along the way, and the thick green fog stood in front of them, as if it were the end of the world. Even if Cheng Ying's blood bar is as thick as Limit Douluo, facing this poisonous fog, he feels a deadly threat, and if he stays in it for a few days, he will die suddenly. What should we do? How do we get in? The Bingdi pinched Cheng Ying's arm and asked in an angry way, pointing to the poisonous mist. Ultra-low temperature can disperse the poisonous mist, you should be able to do it. As mentioned in the original work, the poisonous mist here is afraid of ice and fire. As long as it reaches the level of extreme fire or extreme ice, it can flow unimpeded. As the strongest ice spirit beast in the Douluo continent, the Ice Emperor can easily use the power of the ultimate ice. With a slender index finger facing forward, an ice blue light beam shoots out from her fingertips. Wherever he goes, poisonous mist they evaded one after another, giving way to a passage. This is the trick you used to chase me down, right? Cheng Ying's expression was a bit stiff. How familiar is this freezing ray attack? Yet. Not convinced. Bingdi ate your expression with a dissatisfaction, completely unaware of the same threat. The effect will be greatly reduced after using it too many times. No. Although it was basically certain that the Ice Emperor would not eat him in a short time, Cheng Ying was still a little bit embarrassed. What are you doing in a daze? Let's go. As he said that the Ice Emperor had already run out first, Cheng Ying had no choice but to chase after him. It was not that he had never thought of running away, but the problem was that he couldn't know how to fly and didn't know how to fly. Fei, the Bingdi refused to teach him, so he could only rely on two legs to run, and couldn't run away at all. At the same time, in the eyes of Binghuo Lianji, a young man with green hair and green pupils, whose whole body exudes an aura of forgiveness, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and stared at two springs, one ice and one fire. It's really a treasure land of geomantic omen. It's worthwhile for me to break in with poison for so many days. This will be mine in the future. The poisonous mist here is really powerful, but it's worse than my green scale snake venom. When I become a title Douluo, I will be called Poison Douluo. Just ran into the eyes of the Binghuo Lianji. Cheng Ying heard the brave words of the immature voice, speaking in the second form, and after a closer look, he saw a green grassland. I'm going? This won't be Douluo, right? This teenage appearance is a bit cute. Cheng Ying was still speculating about the child's life experience, and the Bingdi was not happy. Mao Tao boy, you are not ashamed. This is clearly my territory. All the treasures are mine. Bingdi's tender voice and lorry appearance. You read www.youcanshu.com is really not convincing, especially the Lolita dress she is helping her choose, which makes her words have no deterrent. Smelly girl. Who is the hairy boy? You are not as old as I am. And I found it first. The young boy Douluo was very dissatisfied. He was also a genius boy, and he was still very arrogant. Hey! Whoever has a big fist, who owns this precious place? If you don't agree, just look at it. Douluo said that he is also the top existence among his peers. Seeing that the Bingdi is younger than him, he didn't pay attention to it. Instead, his 17 or 18-year-old appearance made him look dignified. Said that the competition with the Ice Emperor was also to prevent Cheng Ying from interfering. He wanted to come. If he won, Cheng Ying would not be embarrassed to swallow this precious land. It's just that Cheng Ying is obviously different from his thoughts, and she gave him a thumbs up. Cao Nian, I admire your spirit of not being afraid of death. Douluo. He had a bad premonition, but he still dealt with it intently, releasing 2 yellows, 1 purple, and 3 spirit rings on his body, the 34th level sole sovereign of the control system, Douluo. Please advise. As he spoke, the green poisonous mist had spread out from under his feet, corroding the ground with unpleasant squeaks. If it was a spirit master of the same level, it would be difficult to get close to him. Ice Emperor. The Ice Emperor's reply was very simple. There was no relationship or level, but this simple reply made Douluo startled. In Douluo continent, not everyone would dare to be an emperor, know the ability to match. This is definitely a dead end. When the girl in front of Douluo was thinking about whether she lived or died, or which old witch became, she saw the Ice Emperor stretch out her slender jade finger and point it diagonally upward. To be continued. Ask for collection, ask for recommendation ticket. Immediately, Douluo saw the ice blue light flashing by the Ice Emperor's fingertips. Looking back, the poisonous cloud in the sky was blasted out of a large hole with a radius of nearly 100 meters under this move. The sun shines through. After passing the hole, it was shining on Douluo, and his heart was cold. The machine had to turn his head to look at the Bingdi. He has now determined that this must be an old witch with a cultivation base, who has changed her appearance because of her special habit. Ice. Ice Emperor, forgive me. The little one has eyes but doesn't know Mount Tai, that, I won't bother you, I'll go now. Douluo is also a little clever ghost, who is extremely soft and decisive, and then sneaks away. A blue light hit the ground 1 foot in front of Douluo, condensing an ice thorn, which immediately made him unable to advance or retreat. Did I say that I let you go? The Bingdi didn't have any mood swings, and he put a lot of pressure on Douluo. He even felt that the girl in front of him was probably more terrifying than titled Douluo. Hand over all the money you have, and then leave. Douluo. Cheng Ying, I knew. It's that simple. Douluo looked incredulous, and when he confronted such a strong man, he only needed to spend money to eliminate disasters? Is there such a good thing in the world? Don't you want to die? I don't bother to kill you. The big bug said that if you kill people, you must destroy the body, otherwise it will cause plague or something, and you will die. The Ice Emperor looked impatient. Douluo didn't know whether he felt more fortunate or humiliated. He survived only because it was too troublesome to deal with the corpse, which would not make people happy anyway. Wait, you are playing drugs. Then don't leave, follow me. Cheng Ying suddenly spoke, causing Douluo's heart to rise again. Hey! How can you make a decision without authorization? The Ice Emperor said with dissatisfaction, why should we take in a little kid? Because I think he is very talented and has the qualifications to become a titled Douluo. Cheng Ying is not a lie, after all, this future also becomes a poison Douluo. What's the use of being a titled Douluo, those weak chickens below level 95, I can hit 10 with one hand. Bingdi looked at me super powerful, you look for this waste with a completely worthless expression. Only this time, Cheng Ying's expression became rare and serious. This is just my personal decision. According to our agreement, I have proven that I can find hidden treasures on the mainland. You should believe it. I know other things. The location of the profound ice marrow. Bingdi was led by him, and he tilted his head and asked, then you tell me where is the Wanzai profound ice essence? I won't tell you the location of the myriad ice essence before your end, because the me who tells this secret is of no value to you, and you can eat me at any time. Hey! Believe it or not, I will eat you now. Bingdi bared his teeth. What's the difference? In 10,000 years, your deadline is approaching. At that time, I will tell you where the 10,000 years profound ice essence is, so that you can pass the limit. Even if I deny you, you can still eat me. All I want is a free life for 10,000 years. For you, this shouldn't be a big deal. So please don't interfere with me taking in Douluo. Cheng Ying was hard-pressed for a while, at least this time, he already has a backing, and the Ice Emperor will never kill him if he is not a last resort. 10,000 years is long enough for humans whose lifespan is less than 100 years. Even if they are eaten, there is nothing to regret. However, what Cheng Ying did not expect was Bingdi's reaction. Bingdi was not angry at what he said, but his eyes were red with an aggrieved expression on his face. After all, don't you just want to get rid of me? What's so great? Just food. Do you really think I care about you? Get out of here. Don't let me see you again, even if you tell me 10,000 years later, you can tell me 10,000 years. I will eat you where the profound ice marrow is. Seeing this scene from the side, Douluo can't wait to dig his eyes. What is so? The relationship between the big guys is a bit complicated. If you know too much, will you be killed? Cheng Ying was taken aback by the words of the Bingdi. Although he was not very human, he could still hear such an obvious arrogant speech. She sighed helplessly and scolded 100 times in her heart. A bitch! Reached out and pressed his hand on top of the Ice Emperor's head, and smashed his blue-green double ponytails. I didn't mean that. If you don't keep thinking about eating me, it's okay to get along for 10,000 years temporarily. Bingdi suddenly raised his head when he heard the words, and stared at Cheng Ying straightly. No regrets? Cheng Ying nodded. Even if I want to eat you in 10,000 years, I won't regret it. Cheng Ying thought for a while. The Tianmeng in the original book seemed to happen to be about to end at that time, and it would be dead if there is no accident, so he nodded. At that time, even if you breached the contract, I couldn't resist. That's good. My Ice Emperor swears to the sky that I will never eat you before the deadline, and you are not allowed to run away before then. As the Ice Emperor pulled Cheng Ying's arm and hugged it in his arms, it seemed that he was afraid that the other party would run away. Cheng Ying sighed helplessly. I'm cheap. All right, you reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Don't cover your eyes, you can hear it when you hear it, and it won't really kill you. Cheng Ying beckoned to Douluo, who was covering his eyes, to come over. Douluo reluctantly walked over obediently, but he was secretly relieved. Killing people shouldn't have to be so troublesome, his life is always saved. In this way, you go and write down all the poisons and tonics you know here. It is best to draw them all. Said Cheng Ying took out the paper and homemade pencil from the backpack. Drew a herbal medicine with the simplest sketch, and briefly explained to Douluo what perspective is called, which immediately surprised him. If this kind of painting method had existed, it would not have been so difficult to pass on poison and medicine. As for the pictures of herbal medicine in those medical books, it's really hard to explain in a word. Anyway, normal people can't recognize the herbal medicine or poison when facing the painting. Sent away Douluo, Bingdi pouted and asked, now you can tell me why I want to take him in. You promised me that I won't run away. Then teach me how to fly first and I'll tell you. Cheng Ying bargained. Okay. You still want to run away? The Ice Emperor pinched the soft flesh on Cheng Ying's waist, but it didn't hurt. Is it true? The main reason is that I have never flew. Cheng Ying is absolutely sincere. I would like to ask a young man who never dreamed of flying when he was a child. Even if he grows up, he will sometimes dream about it. Okay. Seeing you are so stupid, you must not fly fast. Come here, I tell you to do this. The Ice Emperor explained, teaching Cheng Ying how to fly. To be continued. Ask for collection, ask for recommendation ticket. Yes. That's it, just use your soul power to support you. I didn't expect you to be quite talented in this respect. The Ice Emperor looked at Cheng Ying, who had mastered the flying skills in a short time, regretted a little. Flying so fast, if he wants to run, wouldn't it be difficult to chase him, but after all, he still doesn't fly as fast as her, which also gave her a little peace of mind. Seeing Cheng Ying flying in the air happy, she didn't think it was so regretted. Cheng Ying didn't think so much at all, his only feeling now is that it's so cool to fly. Anyway, his body has more than 900,000 years of cultivation base, and the total amount of soul power is much larger than that of limit Douluo. The basic operation of flying is still very simple under the premise of a preliminary understanding of aerodynamics. Douluo, who was sketching a plant of herbal medicine, silently put away the careful thought of using Cheng Ying to intimidate the Ice Emperor. Is this special? If you want to fly so slippery, you have to title Douluo, even if it looks weak, he can't be defeated by a Threaring spirit master. The same is true of the facts, the frontal combat power, he may not be much better than Douluo, this little kid, but the problem is that his blood bar is thick. Standing there makes people beat them, without the strength of a title Douluo, I'm afraid that you will have to fight for a few geniuses before you may be beaten to death. Hey! I said you can tell me now, why do you value this little kid? The Ice Emperor dragged Cheng Ying down from the sky and exclaimed angrily. Because he is very good at using poison. Think about it, he came in by himself. You see that the drug barrier outside is so powerful, and it is so easy to enter without you. He must have a deep knowledge of poison. I plan to accept him as a disciple and teach him chemistry and medicine. I think he has the potential to become a character like Ashimaru. Bingdi was confused when he heard it. What is chemistry? Is Yuan a kind of meatball? Is it delicious? Cheng Ying scratched his head, accidentally telling the story of his previous life. Chemistry is a study of changes in matter. You are definitely not interested. As for Yuan, he is a scientist. This is a long story. It was on a remote continent. There was a place called Konoha village. While she was talking, Cheng Ying digressed, telling the Ice Emperor the story of Naruto, and the Ice Emperor was also very absorbed. The big reason why she developed an attachment to Cheng Ying was that Cheng Ying there are always endless stories to tell. For the soul beasts lacking in cultural life, these stories are like wine, which makes people intoxicated and unable to extricate themselves. Naruto's story is very long. Even if it's been told until it gets dark, Cheng Ying has just talked about the part of the Zongnin exam. Just when he was dry and ready to take a break, Dashimaru, oh no. Douluo finally recorded it. The herbs I knew came back out of breath. Master Cheng Ying, please have a look. I have drawn all the herbs that I don't know. Cheng Ying took the paper, looked through it, and filled in the names of a few herbs he knew, thinking about Panax noto ginseng, pure aria lobata, radix azatis. These drugs are not very obvious. Douluo Tongtong doesn't recognize them. Among those he knew, Cheng Ying had never seen most of them, and it was probably a unique herbal medicine in this world. At this moment, Cheng Ying suddenly noticed that Douluo recorded two medicinal herbs that he had an impression of. One was an ice blue herb with 8 horns, and the other was a fired herb that looked like cabbage. Douluo, although I don't know them, they are marked as highly toxic under these two herbs. Where did you find these two kinds of grass? Cheng Ying asked, pointing to the pattern on the paper. Over there. Talking Douluo obediently led the two to come to the spring eye, pointed out the herbal medicine, and the two herbal medicines grew beside the ice spring and the fire spring respectively. In these two most extreme locations, only two of them grow alone there. It should be the octagonal black ice grass and the burning apricot. Good luck, I found the real baby. Cheng Ying wanted to pick the octagonal black ice grass first. But he didn't want the Ice Emperor to grab him. Although I don't know these two herbs, I am sure that they are both highly toxic. Even if I eat them, they will be severely injured. Cheng Ying touched Bingdi's head and said, it's okay. It must be very poisonous to eat alone, but as long as you eat it together, it will be a big supplement. Don't worry, I'm so afraid of death, I won't be messed up. Hey! Who cares about your life and death? I'm just worried that after you are poisoned to death, the corpse will not be able to eat. The Bingdi held his arms and turned his head, closed his eyes and didn't look at Cheng Ying, but couldn't help but open it. Sneaking with only eyes, it is a tsundere who can't be more standard. Cheng Ying just smiled. In the eyes of Emperor Bingdi's nervous eyes, she took off the octagonal black ice grass. The extreme cold poison made Cheng Ying's palms covered with frost, and the pain caused him to bark his teeth, but because of him it's because of the ice attribute itself, so it doesn't hurt very much. Hurried to the side of Luo Xingjiao, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com put down the octagonal black ice grass, and the cold and fire poisons of the two were offset, and the ice and flames of the fried noodles disappeared. According to the original record, he only had 10 breaths, which is about half a minute or more to take these two herbs. After hesitating, he finally cut the two herbs into 3 equal parts, swallowed one part by himself, stuffed one part into Bingdi's mouth, and threw the last one to Douluo. Eat this thing, you will have a lot of power and will not invade all poisons, but your poison will be completely wiped out. However, I still advise you to eat it. Your snake venom will not only eat itself back, but will also cause harm to children and grandchildren. If you take it, I will teach you a more powerful poison than snake venom. Cheng Ying said nothing more than this, holding time. If he doesn't take 10 breaths, he will quickly grab it and eat it himself. After all, waste is wrong. The Ice Emperor's face was stuffed with bulging, like a little hamster hiding only food. Seeing Cheng Ying swallowed it without hesitation, moved his cheeks, and finally chose to believe in Cheng Ying and swallowed with his head up. Went on. On the other hand, Douluo is entangled. He can naturally see that this is his own great chance, but his blue scale snake venom is also his greatest pride. If there is no snake venom, he is just a talented ordinary beast soul. Master, whether to believe this mysterious person's words or to continue to use poison is a difficult question to decide. It's just that he himself noticed that snake venom has already begun to affect his body, and it's almost always true to say that it will cause harm to children and grandchildren. In addition, Cheng Ying's understatement said that he mixed the two highly toxic substances. The method is obviously a person with real abilities. Various factors finally made the balance in Douluo's heart pour out, desperately swallowing 2 kinds of herbs into his abdomen. To be continued. Ask for collection, ask for recommendation ticket. Just as he swallowed the herbs, Douluo felt a heart-piercing pain spreading from his abdomen to his limbs. It was the pain he could not have caused by the most poisonous poison he had ever seen. Immediately his eyes widened. I just can't speak, I can only shout in my heart. Could it be that that person is lying to me? But why? Finally made up my mind, it turned out to be a scam. Damn it! Cheng Ying also noticed his situation and was embarrassed to explain, I forgot to say that the process of herbal transformation of the body is quite painful. The weaker the physique, the more painful it is. I don't feel anything like Bingdi and myself. If you can't stand the pain, jump into the spring water. After eating these 2 herbs, the 2 extreme spring waters can no longer hurt you. Cheng Ying gave a very sincere suggestion. Douluo was already in pain and was about to collapse. At this time, there was no time to tell if Cheng Ying was lying to him, so he could only plunge into the hot yang chuan. Just after the body entered the spring water, the pain not only did not relieve, but instantly doubled. He screamed out in pain. Before the pain passed out, the last sentence he heard was from Cheng Ying, after jumping in, the pain will pass out soon, and the pain will disappear after passing out. When Douluo woke up again, he was already lying next to the cold ice spring. Turning his head to look, Cheng Ying and Bingdi were soaking in the spring water only in underwear. In the spring water of -100 degrees, the 2 of them showed bubbles. A soothing expression like a hot spring. Hey? Are you awake? Do you want to come in bubble too? Cheng Ying asked Bingdi while turning his head to help Bingdi wash his hair. Was teased twice by this mysterious person who always talked halfway, Douluo also got a little more minded, did not speak or move. Forgot, your martial spirit is a green snake. If the water is too cold, maybe it will hibernate. Cheng Ying's next words immediately confirmed his guess. If he jumped in obediently, it would probably freeze again. Fainted. Cheng Ying helped the Bingdi unhurriedly comb the long hair behind his head into a total horn bun, now the Bingdi looks more like a little loli. After doing these Cheng Ying, he turned his head and said to Douluo, no kidding this time, would you like to be my apprentice? Douluo widely heard that he would agree without thinking about it. He had completely abolished his poisonous powers, so that he would worship this mysterious man as a teacher, otherwise he would not be regarded as a powerful soul master even if he was invincible. Don't rush to agree, I have to explain to you first. You have also seen it. First of all, it's definitely not a human being, and secondly, there's nothing I can teach you about combat. I don't know many herbs you know. Your knowledge in poison may not be stronger than you. I can only teach you some of the most basic knowledge about the nature of matter. What you can achieve in the future depends on your own efforts. Cheng Ying said in one breath how unreliable she was. The more I listened to Douluo's face, the darker his face became, and the heart said, you said this before giving me the medicine. Helpless now, it's too late to regret, Douluo took a deep breath, knelt down to the end, and worshipped Cheng Ying 3 times and 9 knocks, saying, "Master, please be a disciple." Cheng Ying's expression also became serious, and her spirit power turned into a long robe while she waved her hand, and her handsome face was so meticulous that she really looked like a human teacher. He stretched out his hand to help Douluo up. "Get up. Since you have been apprentice, I will teach you the first lesson here. You have lost the snake venom, then I will first explain to you the principles of several snake venoms. If you encounter a poisonous snake in the future, so that you know how to use it." Speaking of Cheng Ying, we started with the difference between neurotoxins, hemolytic toxins, and symptoms, and talked about the principle of action a little bit. By the way, Douluo popularized the human body structure and cell theory. These are basically seen in popular science programs. Although not all right, it is enough to inspire Douluo. When he first said about the symptoms of poisoning, Douluo could still understand. Not only did he understand, but also nodded frequently. Cheng Ying's summary of the 2 toxins made him feel suddenly open. But when he talked about a series of mechanisms of action such as destroying blood cells, affecting the nervous system and causing respiratory failure, Douluo became more and more unable to understand. In the end, when he talked about the composition of toxins, it was protein and peptide. Douluo, his eyes are completely captivating. Cheng Ying saw that he couldn't understand, and scratched his head. "This knowledge is probably too profound for you. I have the opportunity to give you a systematic introduction to the major systems and cell theories of the human body. This knowledge is of this kind to you. Experts who use poison are very helpful, and they just let you distinguish the difference between toxins and viruses." Cheng Ying thought about it and felt that it would be a little bit frustrating to tell a person who has no foundation to directly teach high school knowledge. It's just that Douluo was fascinated by it. He had been immersed in poison since he was a child. Although he did not understand many things that he said, he felt a sudden openness. Facing Cheng Ying's incomparably complete system, he actually had a feeling that it should be like this. How he didn't expect it. Cheng Ying also said that she was a little tired. Reading www.yuyuganshu.com stretched out and looked at the horizon. It was already dawn. Although he hadn't slept all night, he didn't feel sleepy. He pushed the Ice Emperor who was asleep in the ice spring. "Get up. Go back to Tiandu City. You don't want to live in seclusion here for 10,000 years." Bingdi opened his eyes sleepily. The appearance of her just waking up in the water felt like a hibiscus in the water, and she said lazily with a hoarse voice, "Why are you going to Tiandu City? Hasn't it been this way for hundreds of thousands of years? Coming here, it's very good here, full of aura, very suitable for cultivation. Are you not bored every day except for cultivation practice? Don't you want to eat candied haws? Don't you want to sleep in a big bed? Don't you want to go out shopping every day? There is no such opportunity here." When Bingdi heard the words, a tangled expression appeared on his small face. "Or, you can buy it for me. She goes to a city where she doesn't worry about being found out of human beings, so that she, who has never lived in a city, can be found. It is still a bit uncomfortable to settle in the city hastily. Do you treat me as a courier brother?" Cheng Ying was speechless. "You can stay at home if you don't want to get along with humans. There is also a class of humans who never go out called Zai, and they have a very good life." Ice Emperor was said to be a little excited. If it weren't for being surrounded by humans all day, it wouldn't be impossible to think about it. "Okay. It's up to you, but what do you have to do in a human city? This, I will understand it after you go. It has a lifespan of 10,000 years. You have to enjoy your life." Cheng Ying smiled mysteriously and greeted Douluo, who was still working on class notes carefully. "Let's go. Back to Tiandu City. To be continued. Ask for collection, ask for recommendation ticket, signed a contract. To be on the most tragic signing list. Everyone is pretty good. Cheng Ying has traveled through so many days, and there is no sign of awakening golden finger. Helpless, he can only recognize the reality, and everything is achieved by his own strength. He who has read 2 Douluo books is very clear that Tianmeng is a completely weak chicken. In the end, it has no fighting power. It has not been able to fight for 1,000,000 years. It is difficult to hope that the cultivation will become stronger. But Cheng Ying also thought about it. He didn't have anything else, but he had a lot of time. 10,000 years, giving the soul beast the most, that is, training to become stronger, but for him, don't talk about building a Gundam or an interstellar battleship. It's okay to build a few aircraft carriers. Backed by an aircraft carrier battle group, even if 100,000-year-old soul beasts dared to pick things up, his mother wouldn't know him. So Cheng Ying set up a small shop in Tiandu City, starting with the simplest things. A set of industrial systems cannot be supported by one person, but a set of basic scientific enlightenment ideas can be done by him alone. Can be compiled. But before that, he must first let people experience the charm of science, and to do this requires some tricks. On the main street of Tiandu City, a small store called Science and Technology Commodity City opened up someday. The owner neither distributes flyers nor solicits business, and there is not even a few goods on the container. The only thing that attracts attention is the huge glass window in the shop. Such a large piece of glass, even if it is not seen in the palace, is installed in such a deserted shop. The pedestrians passing by can only sigh the violent thing. However, people are curious after all. This shop has been here for several days and finally welcomed its first customer. The visitor was dressed in a silk robe. Although there is no embroidered mark, it can be seen that it is a family. Noble, only these people will step into Cheng Ying's shop out of curiosity. Entering the store, he felt cool for some reason. Just stepping into the store, he heard a young male voice. Human blood cells can be roughly divided into 3 types: red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets. These 3 types of cells are respectively responsible. He could understand every word of the lecture, but he didn't know what it meant when connected together. He was arrogant that his knowledge was not much worse than those of famous scholars, but he didn't understand the knowledge of the shopkeeper at all. I became a little more interested in this store, and coughed lightly to remind the 2 people in the store. Cheng Ying, who was telling Douluo about the characteristics of human blood, was stunned for a moment. Then he realized that a guest had come to Douluo, and said to Douluo, "Let's talk about it today. You can sort out what you have learned in the past few days." Faced with the guests, seeing that the visitors were well dressed, there was no Jiawai who couldn't help raising his eyebrows. "Dare to ask how the guest officer is called?" "Just call me Knight." The young boy's elegant smile made Cheng Ying thoughtful, and the nobleman of Heaven Do, who claimed to be Yat, was at this age. Could it be that he would be the future Emperor Shui Yat? Cheng Ying was just guessing, but didn't say anything. Whether it was the future emperor or not, had little influence on him. "Why? Don't you tell me what you sell in this store? As you can see, the shelves are all goods." Cheng Ying pointed to the glass counter. Ye smiled after hearing the words, "Say your colored glaze shelf is even more valuable. If you have to buy caskets and return beads, it's not impossible to sell them at this counter." Cheng Ying also laughed. Ye thinks that Cheng Ying is a very interesting person, and what he said is also very interesting. Buying a tree and returning a pearl. Although I have never heard of this idiom, I can easily understand the meaning. Then I have to ask the owner to introduce your pearls. As he said, he picked up a small bright silver tin box and opened the lid. He thought there was a rare gem in the box, but he didn't want a cluster of flames to suddenly burst out of the box and startled him. As you can see, the lighter is still a useless plaything for the time being, but it becomes useful when the tobacco smoked by the tribes in the south reaches it. Yet also understands the meaning of Cheng Ying. Such an exquisite lighter must be very valuable. The poor can't afford it, and the nobles have servants who can't use it. The only function is to use them to pretend to be when they go out hunting. Put the lighter back. He picked up a small paper box and shook it. There seemed to be a few wooden sticks inside. What is this again? Similar to the previous one, it is also used for ignition. This is called a match, said Cheng Ying. Took over the matchbox to burn, and the bright flame made the night nod. If this thing is cheap enough, it is a good thing. It's just that Cheng Ying quickly dispelled his thoughts. This thing is still produced by me by hand. The cost is too high. People don't have a hobby that needs to wipe the fire frequently. At best, it is just a plaything. Nothing else can compare. Said that. Cheng Ying pulled out a match, broke the head of the match, and said, "White phosphorus, a new kind of poison, which is almost lethal in my hand." Cheng Ying's words made Ye couldn't help taking a step back, and his gaze at the match was no longer a plaything. Don't worry so much. If you accidentally eat it, reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Gastric lavage to induce vomiting may still survive. Although Cheng Ying said that, Ye still looked solemn. It's not that he has never seen a poisonous, but it is also a seal, like this kind of poison that can kill as long as you eat such a little. It really can't make people undaunted. Forget it. If you don't like matches, just look at this. Cheng Ying took out something like a glass water bottle and handed it to Cheng Ying. Below the glass water bottle was a metal jar with a metal gear on it. What is this again? Cheng Ying took off the glass cover, took out a match, lit the wick below, and suddenly, the bright light was released from the wick, which was very clear even in the daytime, much brighter than candles. The kerosene lamp. If it feels too bright, you can turn this gear to adjust it. As Cheng Ying turned the gear 2 times, the light became like a candle. This is quite interesting. It doesn't need to cut candles, and it is brighter. If you are willing to sell in large quantities, many big families will come to you to buy. Yes, seems to be very interested in kerosene lamps, but what does it burn? It will never light up out of thin air. The kerosene lamp naturally burns kerosene, a barrel of gold soul coin. It is not expensive. I will sell it. If you want to buy the manufacturing technology of the kerosene lamp, you can sell it to you. Cheng Ying smiled slyly. You know how to do business. Kerosene lamps are a on-off deal, but kerosene can flow in a long way, but a bucket of gold soul coin is not expensive. A gold soul coin is probably enough for an ordinary family of 3 to save money and spend a month, but it is really nothing for a large family. Although kerosene lamps can also make money, they are somewhat insignificant at night, even kerosene. He is very interested in the method of extraction. To be continued. Ask for collection, ask for recommendation ticket. You are wrong to say that. Doing business is a matter of your wish. Since kerosene is better than candles, it is only natural for me to sell my kerosene. Although the soul master abilities on the Douluo continent are strange, the development of science and technology is still at the level of the Middle Ages. The kerosene lamp is also considered magical for nobles like the knight, especially the ability to adjust the brightness. Interested? But what I'm more interested in is your kerosene. As for this lamp, it doesn't make much money. This is difficult. The technology of refining kerosene is related to many other more important technologies. If you have tens of millions of gold soul coins, I can sell it to you, but most people can't come up with it. A lot of money. Kerosene alone is not worth so much. If you only buy the technology of the lamp, I can sell you 100,000 gold soul coins. If you can't make this glass cover, you can outsource it to my glass factory, and it is guaranteed to be 30% lower than the market price. You must know that glass is a work of art in this era. On the other hand, in Cheng Ying, glass can only be regarded as a daily necessities, and a low 30% can also make a lot of money. You have to drink all the soup and water. Even though she said that, Cheng Ying could see the other party's intentions, so she continued, my price is honest, and we all make money. The kerosene lamp can only be regarded as an appetizer. Seeing so many things on my counter, I don't have to worry about the chance of cooperation in the future, right? In this way, if you feel a loss, I will give you a free trick. Didn't you say that candles need to be cut? I do not have to cut the candle. Speaking, he turned his head and greeted, Bo. Bring a candle for the teacher. According to Douluo, he quickly went to the desk and got a candle. After contacting Cheng Ying for a few days, he really admired himself as a master. Although Cheng Ying said that what he taught him was the most basic thing, but Douluo knows very well that the more basic things are, the more important it is. Whether it is the cell theory or the atom theory of matter, Douluo has benefited a lot, and he has more respect for Cheng Ying. Cheng Ying took the candle, lit it in front of the night, and was surprised to see that with the burning of the candle, the wick of the candle spread out into 3 parts, which was then burned into ashes. He simply rubbed the wick into 3 strands can eliminate candlesticks. The principle of is so simple, but no one can think of it before seeing it in person. You have seen it, it's actually as simple as that. I call this power of change technology, and the things I sell are all new things that can change people's lives. Cheng Ying blew out the candle and raised his head to indicate. Take a look at the other products on the counter next to it. Yet also understood at this time that what Cheng Ying was selling was not any product, but the things he named as technology behind these products. I have already received your gift. If I don't buy it, won't I become a villain? I will send 100,000 gold soul coins as soon as possible. What about the drawings? According to Ying Ying's words, he pulled out a piece of paper from the counter and used a standard ruler to make the drawing. In just a few moments, he drew the 3 views of each part of the kerosene lamp, and clarified the scale. The structure was clear at a glance. He doesn't worry about the other party's recklessness. The kerosene lamp is just one of the many small things in his mind. Using it to test out a person, Cheng Ying will not feel distressed at all. Your painting method is very interesting. Although it is the first time I have seen it, I can see it at a glance. But it is much easier to understand than the inexplicable drawings of artisans. Is this also the technology you are talking about? That's right. The 3 views are just the basis of drawing. Thinking of the various homework when he was in the engineering drawing class at the university, he felt unbearable to look back. I hope there will be opportunities to cooperate in the future. Yes stretched out her hand, and Cheng Ying also stretched out her hand to shook his hand. I still have a few treasures of the town shop that I haven't sold yet. I hope they can fall into your hands. The treasure of the town shop you mentioned must be a good thing. By the way, I haven't asked your name yet. Cheng Ying. Brother Cheng, don't live here. After saying that, he rolled up the blueprints and ordered a few words to the servant outside the door, and then bid farewell to Cheng Ying. In the afternoon, a carriage pulled 100,000 gold soul coins and came to the door of the shop. Early on, I heard that there were 100,000 gold soul coins in the account. Pounced into the pile of gold coins. Mine, it's all mine. However, she hadn't enjoyed the feeling of being surrounded by gold coins, so she was carried out under her armpit by Cheng Ying. How many times have I told you, don't play money, this thing is touched by everyone, it's very dirty. I want you to take care, your money is my money, I want to play as long as I want to play. The Ice Emperor opened his teeth and danced his claws, but he was anxious about his height. Break free. Gold coins. Actually that's the case. You will understand later that a stack of paper or even a string of numbers can make you more excited than you are now. Cheng Ying also noticed that there is no system on Douluo continent. This is also an opportunity for him. What a joke, how can you reading www.yuyuganshu.com paper have gold coins? I don't believe it. Bingdi looked upset when Douluo moved a large box of gold coins into the shop. Cheng Ying rubbed her little head, and said with a mysterious smile, you will understand later. At that time, I will make sure that you will laugh from ear to ear at a string of oddities. Said, he took the Ice Emperor back to the small shop, and the servant in charge of sending the money did not doubt that it was nothing more than a wayward little girl. There are many in the big family of girls. Hey! I said, Xiaoying, are you really making these weird things to make money? The Ice Emperor, who was taken back to the shop, licked a strawberry-flavored popsicle and asked in confusion. It's not all. Cheng Ying picked her up in the eyes of Bingdi's resentment, put her on her lap, and hugged her in her arms like a pillow. The main reason is to make your life more comfortable. Just like the ice cream in your hand, many interesting things have not yet appeared in this world. If you want to enjoy these, you have to rely on your own hands to create. We have 10,000 years, which is more than 100 times that of ordinary people. If it passed in plainly, wouldn't it be a pity for you? If you go back to the time when there is no ice cream, no cooking, no story, and no lantern, would you still be willing? The Ice Emperor, who was held by Cheng Ying in his arms, thought about that kind of life, and shook his head quickly. No, that would be too boring. Now I don't even want to go back to the far north. Yet. This is my purpose. Let me tell you a story. Cheng Ying smiled slyly. Bingdi, who listens to the story every day, nodded, and wondered what Cheng Ying would tell her again. To be continued. Ask for collection, ask for recommendation ticket. Thanks to Baiwei for rewarding 100 starting coins. Cheng Ying cleared his throat, and slowly told the story of 1001 Nights. There was an ancient country, and its king was betrayed by his lover, so he hated women extremely. In order to retaliate, the king will hold a wedding every day, and then after the wedding night is over, the newly married girl will be cruelly executed. The king's cruel behavior made every young girl in the country endangered, and it also triggered a girl's sympathy. She was determined to end the tragedy and became the king's bride voluntarily. Is only different from other girls. She started telling stories to the king as soon as she entered the palace. The stories she told were wonderful, but they stopped abruptly in the early morning of the next day. The king was listening with enthusiasm, so he asked her, "Why didn't you keep talking?" She said, "I can't continue speaking, because it's almost dawn and I will be executed by you." The king immediately pardoned her today's death sentence and told her to finish the story. But the next day, the girl told an equally wonderful story. In order to listen to the story, the king had to pardon it again. In this way, the girl told a total of nearly 3 years, 1001 stories. The king was also moved by the girl during these 3 years and gave up killing her, and recorded the 1001 stories. Cheng Ying also couldn't remember what the original story was like, but told it based on his own impression. "I was thinking, I'm like that girl, but I don't have such a wonderful story. Then I can only make you accustomed to a better life, so that you can't live without me, and you won't want to eat me. That's it." Cheng Ying pushed the Ice Emperor away as soon as he finished speaking, turned around and ran away. Bingdi was taken aback for a moment, and then he reacted, "Okay. You said I was that cruel king, look for a fight." Bingdi waved his short hand and chased Cheng Ying. The two of them didn't use their soul power. They just laughed for a while, making each other very embarrassed. Finally, they fell together on the bamboo rocking chair and looked at each other. And laugh. "If the current life becomes better, maybe I really will not give up eating you." Bingdi smiled. Cheng Ying shook his head, "What is life now? It's just that I have some iced fruits, and a few more new styles of stir-fry and hot pot. What I am most satisfied with is the water-cooled air conditioning system that uses groundwater to cool down. Could it be this? Does it satisfy you? You know, we haven't used electricity, no internet, no mobile phones, even the Zioba Wang game console. When the night is bored, we can only hold you and count the stars in the yard, me. It won't be so easy to be satisfied. But, only 10,000 years. Bingdi sighed for some reason. That will be the future. At that time, if you want to extend our agreement, it is not impossible. What's more, if you spend 10,000 years as a human being, it is already very exciting. Human beings are just because of the wonderful only in life can we calmly face the short lifespan of 100 years. Bingdi nodded unconsciously. The impression given to her by these few days' experience alone was comparable to the hundreds of years of cultivation in the far north. I'm really happy to spend time with you. Bingdi buried his head on Cheng Ying's chest and said, as if he didn't want Cheng Ying to see her flushed face. Are you together forever? I promise I won't think about eating you again. Bingdi buried his head in Cheng Ying's chest, and what he said was a little trembling. Cheng Ying blinked her eyes, thinking strangely, are we considered to be a true cultivation result? Blurted out and said, okay. That's the deal, I don't have to go back. Hook. Retractor. After holding Bingdi's Cheng Ying for a while, he calmed down some excitement, lifted the Bingdi from the rocking chair and said, sorry, I actually concealed some things from you before. As he said, he put the Ice Emperor on the ground, took her to the backyard, and then took out an iron pipe with a wooden handle from the pile of debris, and took out a paper bag to bite it through with his teeth. Black gunpowder, the invention of the ancestors. As he said, he poured gunpowder into the barrel, then blocked the barrel with a cone-shaped mini bullet, and took out the cleaning rod to compact the bullet, smooth-bore flintlock, the simplest one of his firearms. Then he raised the gun and faced the Ice Emperor, be careful, there will be a high-speed lead projectile shot out in a while, and be defensive. Of course, Cheng Ying is not worried. An old flintlock gun can hurt the Ice Emperor, but he still remains. Road. Bingdi probably also guessed what Cheng Ying wanted to say, but he was not angry. Since Cheng Ying said it, there was nothing to be angry about. Instead he was a little ecstatic inexplicably. At this moment, facing Cheng Ying's reminder, Bingdi also nodded, indicating that he could demonstrate. Immediately, Cheng Ying pulled the trigger, and the high-speed lead bullet came to the Ice Emperor in an instant, but the Ice Emperor's speed was faster, and he squeezed the red mini bullet. What? I thought you had hidden some super powerful secret weapon. This kind of thing, a spirit master above the fourth ring, can stop it with defense, even if it is unexpected, it can't kill a soul master above the sixth ring. Bingdi's expression turned out to be a little disappointed. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Cheng Ying put down the gun, smiled and said, it is indeed very weak now. It can only fire a small lead bullet, and it takes half a minute to reload. But just like our life a little better, it will become stronger a little bit. It used to be equipped with a smooth-bore flintlock, to a rifled gun, and even a gun after a paper shell. In the future, it may be able to shoot faster, farther, and more powerful, and even one day in the future, he will bloom like the sun and become a big killer that can destroy the mainland. In 10,000 years. If you keep working hard for one thing, what can't be done? Aren't you bragging? Destroying the continent is too exaggerated. The Ice Emperor's face was full of unbelief. Destroying the continent is indeed a bit exaggerated, but I am sure about destroying an empire. Cheng Ying smiled. The principle of a nuclear bomb is not that difficult. As for the extraction of uranium-235, it is a job that requires countless attempts. Using the most mature centrifugal acceleration method for separation, 10,000 years is definitely enough to summarize the mature process flow. So what did you plan to do originally? Asking this, Bingdi showed a fierce expression. Originally, these were prepared to deal with you. After all, after telling you the location of Wanzai's profound ice marrow 10,000 years later, I have no ability to resist at all. Cheng Ying did not intend to conceal it, and tell it all. Bad guy. I believe you so much, you still treat me like this. Bingdi turned his head away from Cheng Ying, but was forcibly picked up by Cheng Ying. So I told you all this now, because when that day comes, my muzzle will no longer point at you, but at those who are trying to take our spirit ring. To be continued. Ask for collection, Ask for recommendation ticket.